This might sound strange, but it can be really hard to admit you don't have it all figured out. In this culture where we love a linear, perfected narrative, we love a guru, we love a put together influencer who has the perfect life and the perfect wife, or perfect husband, and the perfect house, and the perfect career, and their 6 step formula to making a million by age 25, right? It can be really hard to admit that you don't quite have certain things figured out, that the culture makes you feel that you should have figured out like a decade ago. And I've noticed that the older you get, it can feel even harder to admit that you don't have certain things figured out. And as a late bloomer, I was reflecting on this recently, how the 5 steps I'm going to share with you have really helped me go from a place of feeling like a failure in areas to flourishing on my own terms by unsubscribing to programming and stories that weren't helpful, weren't supportive. And I hope that you can get something from this video that helps you unsubscribe from stories and narratives that aren't even yours, that are from the culture, that aren't helpful, that aren't supportive to you in owning where you are and moving forward. Welcome if you're new here. I'm Travis, and I'm a random guy on the internet mostly. I've climbed corporate ladders. I've toured as a musician. I have ghostwritten for New York Times bestselling authors. And that brings me here to talk with cousins. I hope you can catch up on the other episodes, by the way, if you didn't catch those before we started this one, because it's all connected here. So back to the topic of the gift of feeling like you don't have it all figured out. Okay. Here's the first thing we don't talk about nearly enough in the culture, because the culture seems to be hell bent on not pushing the truth, right? Is even your faves don't have it figured out, okay? You know Gary Vaynerchuk? He was out here talking about accountability this, accountability that, be a good person, while he was not so quietly being a homewrecker and cheating on his wife. Ooh, ooh. Okay. Moving on. The first lady and president I acknowledge. I don't acknowledge the current one. Michelle and Barack. Michelle comes out after their tenure in the White House and talks openly about how she resented her husband for about a decade. The most put together first family that we've known in my life. Comes out, wife says, I resented that man that you all loved for over a decade in our marriage because he wasn't helping with the kids the way I wanted him to, because I didn't want to be in the White House and he wanted to be president. And it's like, we could also talk about how no regular person wants to run for president. That's aside the note. It's just like an odd thing to pursue. It's a very stressful job. And it's just like, why? Power hungry, power hungry. That's aside the point. That's aside the point. Okay? The thing is, a lot of your faves don't have it figured out. Beyonce and Jay-Z. As perfect, woke up, flawless, down, down, flawless, as Beyonce's brand is, guess what happened with her and Jay-Z? We all know. The infidelity, the betrayal of it all. Yep, yep, yep. It's like, okay. So all these different figures and whatnot that we prop up on pedestals don't even have it figured out. So it begs the question, what even does it mean to have it figured out? Well, we tell ourselves a story that by a certain age, you'll be making this much, you'll know what path you're on, maybe you'll be in a relationship, maybe you'll have kids, maybe you'll own a home, and that's the marker of figuring out. And then I moved to New York City, and it brings me to point two. You know what I realized pretty quickly? Oh, this is good. It's getting spicy. It's getting spicy, guys. This is good. Okay? What I realized pretty quickly, especially after getting out making friends, dating and whatnot, is I realized we are all walking and crawling in different areas. That you can be very advanced in your career, yet emotionally stunted. You can be very advanced with your self awareness, yet professionally stunted because you don't act on what you know. You don't act on your deepest convictions. You don't know how to, or you lack the motivation or the discipline to do so. And so it's like, wow, there's no such thing as universally having it all together. And that's the lie we need to reject, is that, like, oh, like, I either have it together or I don't. It's like, no. No. And rejecting the lie of needing to have it all together is even more important, I've realized. If you are a multifaceted person who doesn't quite fit the mold of one career path, if you are the sort of person who has felt like a late bloomer because it's been a lot of trial and error to get to where you are, or maybe there have been health setbacks, or you've had to step out and be a support to family or a caretaker. A number of circumstances could put you in a position to where you didn't just have the freedom to cruise and soar in the lanes that some of your peers got to cruise and soar who seem further ahead in life, and then you log on Facebook. Don't do that to yourself. You log on Facebook and you start playing the comparison Olympics. Or worse, you log on to LinkedIn. And we know LinkedIn is known for one thing: bragging. That's all they do on LinkedIn. That's all they do on LinkedIn is brag, brag, brag. Greetings, colleagues. I'm so delighted to announce to you that I've been promoted to senior chief executive staff of managerial logistics and management. Like, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. No one cares. No one cares, Chad. No one cares. No one cares. Oh my gosh. All that to say, right? I hope you are kind to yourself, especially if your path doesn't look like other people's, because no one's path looks like other people's. But some people have a pretty basic vanilla path, and it's more just you start and you end in a certain place. But especially if you're multifaceted, I've had so many careers in my 20s, and I'm just starting to get to a point where I feel like things are really congealing. I have worked in tech. I've worked in tech sales. I've worked in project management. I at one point thought I was going to be an investment banker on Wall Street, and I interned in finance space back in college and realized, okay, I could do this, but it would be a sort of soul suicide that I'm not sure I want to volunteer for. Okay. Multifaceted people have a different route. Robert Greene, the author of all those books, he's kind of dark Machiavellian and whatnot. Laws of power, mastery, art of seduction, all that, right? Laws of human nature. He had some 20 to 30 something odd jobs in his 20s and 30s before he really stumbled his way into being the prolific writer that he is. And all those odd jobs helped him become the prolific writer that he would have never been if he'd just been an accountant at PwC for all those years. It was the plethora of experiences, SAT word, that helped him become the Robert Greene whose work some people appreciate, love it or hate it. He has a prolific body of work. And if you need more support with this, by the way, I have a whole book club you can join. It's on Patreon. Pretty iconic. We have fun. Current theme is alchemy. You get quests. I do workshops. I really organize and structure it because I also worked as an instructional designer for years. It's a part of my career path. And so I know a thing or two about how to structure things in a way that helps you get something out of it. And a lot of creators don't do that. They just do pa pa pa. They do boo boo boo. They don't do experience. Okay, so another thing when it comes back to the gift of not having it all figured out and feeling like a failure at times because you feel like you don't have it all figured out. Lies. You're not a failure. But you can feel like it sometimes. I've realized in my darkest hours, okay, we're getting kind of dramatic here, but it's true. I've realized in my seasons where I was like, okay, hardship. Mm-hmm. Went through a season where I was window shopping at Chipotle. I can tell you the story behind that too. I've realized in those chapters that motivation is a scam. Discipline is where it's at. Systems will save you. Okay? Sticking to the plan rather than our mood is the assignment. I repeat, sticking to the plan rather than the mood is the assignment. Okay. Yeah. And the whole David Goggins self-development, wake up at 4 a.m., ice bath, go hard, chew nails, eat glass approach to discipline has never really spoke to me. It's never really resonated with my spirit, with my tender, sensitive millennial spirit, with my artsy-fartsy spirit. But what has worked more for me is actually a practice that I'm coming back to as I read the Book of Alchemy by Suleika. And in one passage, they talk about the art of just checking in with yourself, looking at the despair, the dismay, the disappointment you may experience, and reflecting on what is this here to teach me? And also, how can I look back at times where I felt utterly discouraged and in moments of despair and it worked out well? And it's from that place of reflection and checking with myself that I have learned to motivate myself and be disciplined when it's hard. It's not a one stop shop. Discipline is not a one stop shop for everyone. For some of us, it takes a little bit more nuance to be at a point where we can do the things that are in our best interest. And it is not always about being mean to yourself or punishing yourself into doing what you need to do. If that works for you, Godspeed, God bless. But for some of us, it's more about checking in, recalibrating, maybe giving yourself a moment to feel away, and then drawing on whatever well of insight or anger or despair or whatever you're feeling to catapult you into doing what you need to do. But back to window shopping at Chipotle, because I know you're still thinking about that. I'm still thinking about that. So, first job out of college, working at this tech startup totally did not align with my values. All right. That's a very millennial thing to say because we want our work to fit us like a glove. Anyway, my nose is itchy. It's not running, guys. Okay. I'm working at this company. They're making some sort of software for law enforcers. And I'm like, yeah, so that's not a fit because me, this large Afro American individual, is also living in a time where black men are getting shot down and choked out and killed by cops left and right. And here I am, low key aiding that work by selling a software technology that helps police better surveil communities. Yeah, no thanks. So then I got really demotivated because it's kind of how I'm wired, where it's like if I'm not enjoying something and I know that this is not the right place to be, I divest. I'm hyper motivated, all in, gonna give it my best and add tax when I care, but when I don't, Godspeed and God bless. And that's how I got with this job. I will never forget. I gave the worst presentation of my life in a little county in Texas. Okay. I'm one to prepare for presentations and I get up in front of the room. Okay. And I look at this room of old records administrators at this police agency and my manager's sitting there all stressed. A lot of them are stressed in corporate for no reason. I give the worst presentation of my life. And you know the best part? I didn't care. I didn't care. It was because I was like, I'm not meant to be here. So fast forward, I knew that Monday when I got back, that was horrible. That was beyond a bomb. And I owned it. And I was trying to find the language to figure out how to gracefully quit this job. Okay, so I start messaging around, messaging, what's it called? HR, like, hey, hypothetically, if I wanted to leave, like, what would the options be? What would the packages be? I was so naive. HR is not your friend. They're going to talk. And so, fast forward, Friday, we sit down and they actually schedule a meeting and we part ways. And that is how, folks, I got fired. I tried to quit and I got fired. But it was a great thing that happened for me because then it thrust me into a season of window shopping at Chipotle. Shout out to Chipotle, where your bills are due and you have more month than money. Beautiful place to be. Beautiful place to be. If you haven't been there, it's a great place to be. It was a season where the chips, the guac, the queso, the pico, okay, all the pipe dream. So I just kind of go there and look at it and I take my what at the time it was like 250, get a bag of chips, and I kind of fantasize about that time where the money was in the place it needed to be to also do the chips, the guac, the queso, the pipe dreams. Okay, so I had to motivate myself in that space, and I had to do discipline to like get into a better space. And it was a process of checking in with myself daily through the journal and consistently doing things I didn't want to do that helped me kind of figure it out. Okay, and then we started freelancing from there through Upwork, found some clients, and then I started my instructional design era, which led me to a whole new career in media. So things looked up, and I've had these peaks and troughs in my journey, and it isn't like things have been one crystal stair. I've gone on tour with artists I really respect and admire. I'm at a position now where I get to make money on the internet doing what I want to do through Patreon, through brand partnerships, through coaching and speaking. I have a little agency on the side where I manage social media and stuff with a few other people on a team who work with me. So I've gotten better through trial and error at figuring out what works for me. But it's been such a journey, such a journey. And it's like, you gotta feel your way forward sometimes. You really do. You have to feel your way forward. And they don't want to tell you about this. They want you to feel like, oh, well, if you don't have it all figured out, then there's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, trial and error, my friend. Trial and error. It's a research experiment. You know what I mean? Which brings me to 4 is we live in this time where there's such a pressure to compare yourself and then despair when you look at your life in reference to random people on the internet or people you know from your way, way past or near past. It could be either or, right? We know comparison's the thief of joy. Yeah, that doesn't really help me. Does it help you? No, it's just a stupid platitude. What helps me is looking at more of the data and stuff. So the what's it called? New York Magazine put out an article not too long ago where, pretending to New York, which is my home base, they were like, yeah, so not only is there this great wealth transfer happening from boomers with money to their kids, but the reason a lot of people in this city who are younger and underemployed seem to afford these lavish lifestyles is because, how? Help from parents, help from wealthy families. Yeah. And so it got me thinking, oop, yeah, so you probably shouldn't compare yourself to people with larger safety nets than you. You probably shouldn't compare yourself to people with larger support systems than you. You probably shouldn't compare yourself to those who are pulling from a well of generational wealth, because you, in one way or another, are going to gaslight yourself. The generational wealth will gaslight you. The people who have access to more means and resources to support everything they're doing, that will gaslight you. And it will make you feel like you're behind in ways that you aren't. You know, you're running different races. You are running it on your own, and they are running it with a lot of help. You are paying for XYZ on your own, and they are getting an allowance from mommy and daddy. You are saving up for the nicer apartment on your own, and they had help from their uncle, or they graduated debt free. You know what I mean? Or we could talk about spousal privilege and how certain people who are married, you know, dual income versus single income household, the single tax is real. There are just so many factors that complicate life and make comparison such an utter act of violence to yourself when you don't have some of the privileges that other people have. So we're going to stop it. We're going to cut it. We're going to cut it. We're going to mind our iconic business, which brings me to point number 5. This is really important on this path, on this path, on this path, right? The gift of not having it all together is that you get to lock in, log out of the social media accounts that are making you miserable, and mind your iconic business. And that is so much easier said than done, but so essential. So essential. Because we have these phone addictions where we scroll. And then our brains, if we aren't careful, do this thing where we hurt our own feelings by seeking out information about people's lives, influencers, different people we know, information that doesn't pertain to us, that makes us miserable. Who's been there? Just me? Okay. Great. Yeah. And it's like, what are we doing? Why are we going to do that? Who is that helping? I mean, it's giving them clicks and views, and you're putting money in someone else's pocket, but just the power of logging off. You know what I love about Central Park in New York City? If you haven't been there, beautiful place. You know what I love about Central Park is that they have these horse-drawn carriages. And is it ethical? No. Those horses should not be walking on concrete pulling carriages. Pretty abusive, honestly. The metaphor of it all, useful. And why is that? Because one thing about these carriage park horses, okay, they have on blinders. What does that mean? They're not looking this way or that way. They're looking straight ahead. And if more of us could just be like a Central Park horse, like a horse drawing a carriage with blinders on, oh my gosh. So much joy. So much joy in being a space cadet. So much joy in logging off. So much joy in committing to creating more than you consume. So much joy in gatekeeping your mind like it's a space you value and want to protect. Because it all ties back to minding our iconic and professional business. And this is how we embrace the gifts of disappointment and go from feeling like we're failing to flourishing. What's your experience with this, e-cousins? We'll talk more. Subscribe. Please share this with a friend if you found it useful. My name is Travis, signing out.